Good morning, everyone.
We are now live, just to clarify.
I do wonder with these sessions that whether it's bad that we always come on chuckling. People must think we're having a riot before we come in. Good morning, everybody. Really, really lovely to be back. Can you believe that we are already in May? It's just crackers. We've got the coronation. It's all go, isn't it? So today, this is session 2 of quarter 2 for 2023. It's a really interesting one today. And I'm not going to lie, Ruth and I are both feeling slightly more anxious today because we are not in control. We have lovely Max, exactly, who's coming to lead our discussion today as we talk about career change and transition. And the reason we felt that we needed it to slightly change our process today is because Ruth and I have worked together, as many of you know, and for those of you who are part of the regular Be Career Confident family, those you know, Ruth and I have worked together for many, many years. And when we were planning for this session, we both went, I don't know if we're the right people to lead this one, because we are probably, both of us, going through professional transition with our businesses. So our experience hopefully will be valuable and valid. But in terms of advising others, we're still working our way through that for ourselves. So it's not always the case. Sometimes we can help and we're there and we can support. But today we actually felt that maybe we needed somebody to come and talk to us through it, which hopefully by our experiences will allow those of you who are also facing it can also join the discussion. As always, please interact on chat. Please ask us questions. This is not us coming in and talking about us for this period of time. We're just using us as an opportunity to start the discussion to hear and to talk about what's going on. Have I missed anything, Ruth? You look like you want to. Or does
no, it was just, if you see Charlotte and I just slightly looking off screen, it's because one of us that isn't talking is going to be in the chat. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for saying hello. And yeah, please use that chat for any comments and questions. Good.
So Be Career Confident, just before we start, Ruth and I have been, for those of you who are new joining us this morning, Ruth and I have been both run recruitment businesses and training businesses and coaching businesses. I'm in Northamptonshire, Ruth is up in Lichfield, and we together, just as COVID hit, formed Be Career Confident, which is a cohort of careers coaching specialists, recruitment specialists, HR specialists, training specialists, who come together to support businesses and individuals with careers related decision making, planning, strategy, whatever that is. And Maxine is part of that. So Maxine, we are so delighted to have you back today. I'm going to pass to you. Could you just remind everybody who you are, which gives Ruth and I a bit, hold on tight before we start.
I promise to be gentle with you. So my name's Maxine Hart. I'm the MD of recruitment consultancy, Woke Street People, part of team and obviously part of Be Career Confident. I think the one thing that all of us have in common is that our roles are problem solving for people. And that's what we all enjoy doing one way or another, whether it's a business or job hunters. So we were talking about transition, whether it's through business or career. I do look around a lot. I do apologise. I'm not very good on things like this because I think with my eyes. So bear with me, people.
No, I do too. That makes me feel better. Good.
So I suppose our first question, what is career transition? Do you even recognise it when it comes along? And do you actually think of what's caused it? Or are you the sort of person that thinks, oh, actually, something new's happening. I'm going to go with the flow on this. And do you let it happen organically? Or are you one of those people who actually has a trajectory of your career and it will happen like that? I have a candidate who, no matter how well he's doing in his workplace, he changes job every 3 years because that's his plan.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, I have thoughts around that as well. So what is career transition? To Ruth, Charlotte, what do you see it as? Or even business transition?
Shall I go?
Yeah, go on.
So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking career transition, career change. We all go through it, and I think it is linked into our lives. And the big thing that I came up with when we were talking about this, I was like, you know, when we were younger, and did you think the same as me that by a certain age you'd have your shit together?
I can tell you, everybody, 50p per time she swears this morning because she's feeling it.
But I don't know, there was this mindset of growing up of you would get to certain stages in life and career that you would have your shit together. And do you know what? I've come to this point of what is career change? Well, actually, it's something that happens when we are evolving and learning. But sometimes it can be scary, dependent on how you are wired. So, and obviously, I've done a lot of reflecting from our first conversation of this. I was thinking about, well, why, for me, sometimes when a change happens, why do I react in certain ways that I do? And it is about the communities that we've grown up with. So whether that has been the family influence that you've had, that could be if you come up in a risk-averse environment or a risk-taking environment, and also, you know, maybe your first job. So if I reflect back into my first job, I was trained. My director was Ruth, DIN. Do it now. Don't pause. We're in a fast-paced environment. You need to get it done. Oh, and by the way, you need to get it right first time. So I've been sometimes in this I need to fix things quickly mode. So career transition to me can make me feel a little bit, oh my goodness, what's going on? I need to fix it. So I think we all go through career change right up until the point where we're looking, and I hate the word retirement, decided I don't like that, because I think it's just a change into the next stage. We all transition and change, and it's about embracing it, but maybe having the right tools to do it and recognizing how you deal with it personally.
I think that throws up actually quite a nice side question, Ruth. The nature-nurture debate, that good old one. Like you say, you know, what's your natural state? I go with the flow and I make the best. But, you know, from your point of view, you had a boss that said, well, actually, no, I want you to work this particular way. So what actually takes over during a transitional period? Is it your innate state, or is it what you've nurtured? We all talk a lot about masking in mental health and things like that. But in transition, are you going with your own feelings, or are you going with what society has told you to do? Because we're a generation apart. I had no plan. So how do you think that reflects, Charlotte, that difference between, am I doing this naturally, or am I, for want of a better word, forcing it?
Forcing it. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting comment. I'm not sure I know the answer, but I think
that's what I like.
What I've interpreted, and as Ruth's talking about what career change is, I've been going, right, what do I like about it, or what don't I? I love evolution. I love improvement. I love that fluid, learn something, like it, implement it, grow from it. And if it doesn't work, change it again. Do you know what? But that's on my terms. Change, when it's forced on us, I struggle with. And it makes me feel a bit defensive and a bit. So and that's, maybe that is nature and nurture. When it's evolution, honestly, you say yes and you work out how to do it. That's my attitude. go with it. Brilliant. That looks amazing. This is going to work really well. Right. How's that going to work? Doesn't matter. We'll solve that in a minute. And anything is possible because that's evolution and transition. Change, but I don't understand how the fuck that's going to work. I'm so tired.
Ladies, we're going to get taken off air in a minute.
50p. I don't know how that's going to work. I can't do it. I'm so stressed. There's too much going on. The kids are too busy at school. I just can't find a solution. That is, for me, that is the two difference. Is that nature and nurture? Maybe.
No, I think that's when you're. No, I think that's when you're in your core state of when you're firing on all cylinders and you're in your brilliant state, because that's in your comfortable zone. You've got comfortable with that, and when everything is thrown out the window is when you're in your uncomfortable. So is it a comfortable and an uncomfortable state? And being in a comfortable state doesn't mean being in a slow state. A comfortable state could be, I'm in my best when I have X amount of pressure. So we've all met people, and we all can probably identify with that when you've got a deadline, there's a certain level of deadline that makes you your optimum. So that's when you're in your perfect state, but it flips one way or the other, and you might not be as good. So give somebody too much time to do something, and they'll waste that time, and they won't be as effective. Give them too tight a deadline, they'll panic. So I think it's about comfortable and uncomfortable state. That's what I would recognise in that. And when we think about career change, and the stages that we go through from getting our first job, some people will feel excited, some people will feel apprehensive. Some people feel differently when they get made redundant. Some people will see it as an opportunity. Some people will see it as a grieving process. Some people will be attached to that career in more than just a task-orientated way. They could be attached to it because it provides them with their social circumstances, and they've got a massive friendship group there. So I think everybody is different, and change impacts people in a different way. It comes back to that piece of having the tools or the network, the people around you to help you guide through something that feels a little bit uncomfortable. And identifying when you get to that uncomfortable state, how do I get out of that, and how do I transition through and go forward?
I think that point of redundancy is very poignant, Ruth, because that really is forced upon people, isn't it? And if we've got people on the live chat today who are going through that, how do you make that a positive thing? Do you start to embrace, well, actually, I was going to leave anyway. Now I've got a springboard to do it. But also, I think those who haven't been made redundant, they're going through a transition at the same time. Because the whole dynamic of their environment is changing. So what happens when the environment changes around you, but it's not actually you doing the changing? How would you, as business owners, make that work positively?
I think maybe this is an interesting one. Why does change need to be a negative? Because there's a default, isn't it, that it's a negative, and even we're sounding like it's a negative thing. So I think it's going back and actually working with others to say change allows for opportunity, it allows for improvement, it allows for creativity. If we think about Be Career Confident for a minute, Ruth, we always said, right, at some point working together. It took 10 years to do it, or however long to do it. We will do something together, and we will do this. But it was only because of the insert word of COVID that gave us that 2-week window when everyone else was lying outside thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. We've got a 2-week holiday and it was 35 degrees. Ruth and I were going hell for leather, going, right, this is our window. And that forced trauma allowed for creativity. So going back to your question about redundancy, I think I've never, and how naive, never considered the change of when people, the ones who remain. We do in grief, we do in death, we already automatically think about the people who are left behind, don't we? So why don't we in redundancy? We only think about the people who it's happened to. We don't think about the trauma for the people who stayed. But actually, how do we make that change interesting for them? Yeah, I agree. I think maybe, but maybe it is as simple as actually there were too many people there and everybody was bored and nobody was properly at work. And actually now with people left that they are. Maybe it is, I don't mean to be that blunt, but maybe it is. In some occasions, maybe it is. In others, maybe it is actually the person who's been made redundant was quite a domineering person for them. So them going has given that person a bit more space to grow into. Are there positives there? Yes, the culture changes, but maybe as business owners, it's our responsibility to bring to the forefront what the positives, and that's not going, oh guys, we're going to be okay, I'm really sorry, we've had to make some redundancies. It's not, actually, Ruth, Charlotte's left, thank God. You can talk all you like, she's not here anymore. And you're like, oh yeah, hadn't thought about that. Maybe I'm just laughing. Maybe that is our responsibility as business owners, is to help identify what the positives are and true positives. Honest.
I think that's as business owners, and also just if you are leading a team, the dynamic of the team and the change within the team, whatever that might be, will change because people change, and that's the one thing that we can guarantee going through life is there will be changes. Yeah,
there's some really pertinent comments coming through actually.
There is. Claire's comment there as well. I'll let you pick them up, Maxine.
Matt Sheeran, worked for the 90s. That was it in the 90s, wasn't it? It was just all change. And also Matt's business, he supports ex-forces coming into so-called Civvy Street. So if there's a transition expert, I think Matt's there. Claire, you're right. It is like the breakdown of a relationship. When we go into companies to do redundancy, outplacement, I don't like that word, outplacement, but so many people saying, but this is our work family.
Yeah.
They're breaking us up. It's like a divorce. It really feels like that. And I think one of the themes that's coming through from both Ruth and Charlotte is that as much as we're trying to say, how do you deal with this? Who would deal with this in that way? That actually pigeonholes don't work.
No.
Because as much as you might have somebody who embraces change, they'll only embrace the change that they actually want to happen. And the fact that we're looking at change from a negative standpoint is that in our culture, for want of a better phrase, the British culture, we are quite staid, aren't we? We don't like too much change. I went on a business coaching course once, went into the office on a Saturday and thought, right, this isn't right. I'm going to change the desks around. I moved the posters on the wall. And one of my consultants came in. She admittedly doesn't like change and just went, oh my God, what's happened? And I thought it was a brilliant idea. I upset everybody in my team and spent Monday morning putting it all back. So that leads on to our question 2. How do you positively transition through a challenging time? And I'm going to add a second point to that. So in career transition, how do we manage it in a positive way? But secondly, as team leaders, business owners, how do we help our colleagues through a business transition? So I'll go to you, Ruth, first on that one. You're going to hate me, aren't you? I know you are.
No, not at all. No, because I like to have something that I can not pin something on, but I can work from something. So when everything is really foggy and unclear for me, I need to find something to sort of a little bit pin something on to say, right, okay, what is this? What's happening? And how do I move forward? And the thing that I find the most helpful, and I'll pop it up on the screen, is in any situation, there's 3 things. And I got this from Johnny Wilkinson, so if anybody's a sports fan. You need to be aware of what's happening. You then need to accept what's happening. And then you need to take responsibility for what's happening and how you're going to move forward. So for me, and going back to what I identified in the beginning of this whole do it now and getting it right first time, I've found that if I go into that space, I'm putting more and more pressure on myself. And actually, I need to really just take a step back and be aware of what's happening. So for me personally, how do I do that? Well, I now just give myself that space, and that could be going out for a walk, thinking it through, having some time on my own and calming down. Because in the past, I've been very quick to react to situations, and sometimes that's been the right thing, but sometimes it just needs a bit more thought in it. So I think, for any to move forward, be aware and find something of how you can become aware of what's going off. Then have that acceptance of, okay, yeah, this is what's happening. And then think about, well, what do I need to do to move forward? That's the responsibility piece. And for me, that, again, speaking from how I deal with things, is, okay, what do I need to do? What impact is having on me, whether it is in my mind, on others, in my house, and then thinking about, okay, what are realistically the things that I can do and what is the right thing to do? Now, sometimes I can work that through myself, but again, I think having a network of people that you can lean on, and I make myself laugh sometimes because I will phone the person that I know will give me the answer I'm looking for.
I think we all do that to a certain extent.
And I've done that with somebody last year. Said to me, "Why didn't you phone me?" I said, "Because I knew the answer you were going to give me, and I didn't want to hear it." So I will admit it that way as well. I think awareness, acceptance, and responsibility for me, and then using your network to whoever that might be to lean on and be on that, or that's my mechanism.
I think Shirley mentions, colleagues need to feel supported and be kept informed, but also I think we can support one another to a certain degree. And one of the points I'm taking from what you're saying, Ruth, is a bit like a ballerina. When they're doing those incredible twirls, or a dancer, they spot, don't they? They pick a point that they know is going to be there so they're not dizzy. And you're saying you have an anchor that no matter how much the change is happening around you, there is an anchor that no matter how minuscule, that's the reality. Yeah. Whilst the change is happening.
Oh, she's gone. All right.
So, we've got somebody saying that I'm often found walking and talking to myself as I walk through a problem or a transition point, and I think that's really good. you know, we're all more used to people so-called talking to themselves now, aren't we? Because people walk around with pods in their ears.
Yeah.
But
Career change.
so,
Sorry.
Charlotte, how do you remain positive through transition? What are your points?
I don't stay positive through transition. That's a stark honesty.
Really honest.
I find it. I really enjoy, like I said to you, I love evolution. I love change. I love improvement. I love creativity. I love learning. I find it sometimes quite a energy draining process. I find it quite an emotional process sometimes because, and actually I was talking to somebody the other day, and God, I hope you listen to this, you know who you are, or you are here, but feeling like there's somewhere you want to be, you have an aim, whether that's for you professionally, like your chap, you know, you have an aim, you have a strategy, you have somewhere you want to get to, but there are certain barriers that you have to work through that are difficult. And for some people, it's I want to get to this point, and this is where I want to be as a business, but I can't get there without dropping some income, because I have to drop that bit of what I do to allow me the time to put into this bit so that I can grow that bit. But I can't do that yet because I need the income. Is that clear for everybody?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And I think, and that's a business owner's take on it. And that is frustrating sometimes, because you're like, I wish that there was a pot of gold at the bottom of the rainbow that I could just dip into and that would allow me. And as a business owner, you have to take risks to move your business forward, but you also have to consider the team who work for you. And in the past, maybe, and this is really honest, maybe I've resented having lots of people to look after because that's felt that I can't achieve what I would like to do professionally, because I worry about a responsibility of looking after them. So in that transition period, there's been not resentment, it's not the right word, but you know, the aches and pains of working through it at the right pace, but managing the responsibility and the accountability. But I think with individuals who are in a work and they're talking about making career change, I think it's equally frustrating and it's hard because, again, they'd like to change to a different industry, but how do they do that? Or they'd like to move a location and they can't do it. You know, there are blockers and there are barriers, and that process can be difficult. You know, I'm not sugarcoating it, am I?
No.
But the positives, I agree with Ruth. I think community is really important. For me, mental and physical health, what do I do to do it? I run more. I get outside more. And actually, Ruth will tell you, I'm almost in the office less when I'm working through something, like Ruth, because I need the mental space and I need the physical space. And I push people away a little bit because it's a defense mechanism, because it's like something's aching and hurting a bit because I'm not getting there. And it's not because I don't need you all, it's because I really do, but I just need to work through this. And then come back and be like, right, okay, I've had the space, this is what I'm thinking, and I can think clearly now and be more helpful.
I think it's important to pick up on individuals, because when we're looking at career change, it comes back again for me to this awareness, acceptance and responsibility. You know, you may be, so you could be going into work every Monday feeling a little bit grumpy. But is that because you're feeling a little bit grumpy because you have an amazing weekend? And actually it's just getting back into the routine of going back to work? Or is it something more? So and that's that first bit of awareness on a career change is, well, is it a temporary situation, or is this, no, I really need to move? And that's another thing about giving time. I always say to myself, when all these feelings first come up around change, my first instinct now is, rather than do it now, get it sorted, solve the problem, is this is more than likely to be temporary. Something's happened to impact me, and this could be a temporary fix. And I've talked about this before, I'm sure, but I write a letter to myself every year, and I used to only open it at the end of the year, and it sort of held me accountable for the things that I needed to do. But I don't know. I check in on it twice a year, and it will say, if you still feel like this is now not temporary. So it holds me a little bit to account on that bit. So the moving into a job, so you've got this thing, well, okay, I could be really unhappy in my job and actually it isn't temporary. I'm not fulfilled. I'm either bored or the culture's changed or whatever it may be that's impacting you wanting to move. But it could be quite drastic of, well, financially, this is a really well-paid job and I'm committed to X, Y, Z. And we've all met people like this that have climbed the career ladder and have got to the top job or a job of real responsibility and then gone, this goes back to my point in the beginning, when you think you're going to have your shit together. You get to that big job and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And then there's a financial implication there as well. So I think, there is emotional impact, there's financial impacts, and then that can then impact you physically.
I think as well, we just to pull some of those points together, some from yours, Charlotte. I don't know if anybody ever watches Family Guy, but there is a baby on there that is in a nappy called Stewie, who's highly intelligent. And there's one episode where he's walking around, and I'm sorry, people, but his nappy is about 4 foot behind him because he's dragging everything with him. Nobody's changed him all day. And sometimes I think that's what it can feel like supporting other people. You're dragging all this poo behind you, but you're responsible for it because you can't let it go. I think the other thing is when a company is going through transition, do the people you're taking on your transitional journey actually know what the end goal is? That is so important to verbalize that to people. And just coming on to your point, Ruth, about, getting to that pinnacle and then thinking, oh, it's a bit lonely up here. People get trapped by salaries. But anybody who used to listen to Chris Evans on Radio 2, when he announced that he was leaving, he said, I've climbed the mountain. I've conquered the mountain. And unfortunately for me, the view isn't enough. It's how hard the climb is. That's where I get the energy from. And I think that's coming through from both of you, that it's that sometimes a challenge can actually be the exciting thing. So just a quick question to both of you. What do you personally prefer? Enforced change that's a challenge, or organic change where you suddenly go, oh, how did my garden turn out so lovely? I'm going to go to Charlotte first this time. They're never inviting me back.
I like hard change.
Yeah.
I like challenge change. But in some ways, I like. I enjoy that. I am one of those people that the more work I have, the more I can do. The less work I have, I sit there and I do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I need that element of, that stress curve is very, very clear for me. And I find that evolution, it's not evolution change, because I think things naturally, if you're open and receptive to change, it can happen every day. Literally every day it can get better. But evolution of going, oh, how did that happen? I'd never not know how something happened. That makes sense. It would feel too soupy and too woolly for me, and not efficient enough. I sound really intolerant and really horrid, everyone. I'm not. I promise I'm quite nice, but it would just be too fluffy.
I think that's a good answer. Thank you.
I can't beat that answer. No, I agree. I need to know where things have come from. but I know I need a support structure around me to get to, I think, being brutally honest, it comes down to probably a confidence thing of, it's just your support network.
Yeah.
I think I just need to, I'm waffling because you've got me thinking, Max.
I think,
Max, can I add one thing?
Yes, of course.
I think when we're talking about change, and Ruth said it a bit, I think we need to be brutally honest with ourselves and say, are we changing because we're bored? And are we changing because we're being lazy and not concentrating enough on one thing? Because it's so easy to be the magpie generation. Oh, that looks better than what I've got already. It's like, well, no. And our job is, because obviously this is what we do, we advise, we support, we say to people, it's being that honest to say, actually, and same with a business. If a business says we think we need to grow, we need to do this, we need to do that, we're like, right, let's stop and analyse what's the current, like Ruth said, what's happening. But I think and as a business, that is quite easy to do that because we do that, we have to stop and look and plan and strategy and all sorts. But as an individual, I think you need to be brutally honest. And I definitely can tell you honestly that I have had members of my family go, stop mucking around and just concentrate on one thing, or just be really efficient at one thing. Because of that needing the adrenaline of change and challenge. And actually, when you then take that energy and put it into what you're doing, I guarantee 99% of people will go, actually, I don't need to change, I'm getting what I need out of this. Yeah. So it's a really channeling of energy.
I think Philippa's point as well, the fact that no change or no challenge can create negativity in yourself, and then that impacts on the others around you. Years ago, I was probably going through a bit of change and I didn't want to recognise it. And being a bit airy-fairy myself, I read my stars and it said, what's more frightening, change or no change? And I turned my life upside down on that paragraph. And it was one of the best things I ever did. So I think sometimes it's that controlling of it. Ruth, Charlotte as well, you both do the disc profiling. And, as a very high S, a mercurial S, I don't necessarily like change, but if I think change is coming, I instigate it in order to control it.
Yeah.
And I think, so we've got three very different people here. We've got Charlotte, who's at the front going, yeah, let's change it. We can do this because this will be more efficient and this will give us energy. And then we've got Ruth, who's saying, I love change. However, what do you think? Shall we do this? Because you like that support group. I'm very similar in that, Ruth. I make no buying decisions now without talking to at least 3 other people. But I flip between no change. Oh, let's just change everything. And I think people understanding that change isn't a bad thing is probably the first step to actually accepting. At what point do you accept change? And I'll make that my last question. Ruth, I'll come to you first.
I think for me, you need to accept change when it's having a negative impact on you in some way, whether you're feeling rubbish, whatever your telltale signs are, you're not sleeping. You might have a recurring injury. There'll be a physical element on that. All right. There'll be a physical impact, and there'll be if it's consuming you, if there is something that is just going round and round and round, and actually you're getting bored with it. You're getting bored with whatever it is that's going around in your head. Well, then you really do need to change it. And if you're lucky, you'll have get a good network and people that will pick up on it with you when you need to change it. Again, I think I mentioned this last year, but a very good friend of mine last year, lots of stuff was going off, and she just phoned me and she went, "You okay?" And at that point, it was, yeah, I'm not great, but I'm not ready to talk about it at the minute. I'm just trying to work it through myself. But you know what? Thank you so much for just saying that.
Yeah.
Because then she was the person I then went to and said, this is how I feel. So yeah, when it's starting to consume you probably, and or there's a physical or an emotional impact on you, I would say that is a change.
Thank you. Charlotte?
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, it's struck a chord. There were various times over the how many years Ruth and I've worked together where we've asked each other that question. We said, what's going on? And obviously we both run businesses, but we run Be Career Confident as a collective group, and be able to say to it and help each other. And you can see the impact physically, and when it has a behavioural change or a physical change, you can't see the mental change. And I think that's the bit you need to be honest with yourself, is when are you feeling that impact, and when is it becoming not obsessive, but when is it consuming you? When is it taking up a lot of your time? You want to change before that happens, because that's when it becomes a negative thing. I'm really pissed off for the fact that you haven't made the change that's got you down and all sorts. But the question was, when do you accept it? At that point. It's a no-negotiable at that point, guys. But ideally, you want to be accepting it before then.
And I think that's a really good point to sort of like close the questions, because I think so many people who are dialing into this or perhaps watching it back later might feel that the change might be on the horizon, and are they just at that point where they need to accept it in order to think about whether it's needed, or whether they're just going to wake up one morning and the garden is full of beautiful flowers and everything's rosy, which is my dream, but it ain't going to happen. Thank you so much for inviting me on, Ruth, Charlotte. I'll hand over to Charlotte.
I didn't need my tissues. I
brought them. One of these.
Yeah, we didn't know what was going to come out of this session, to be honest. But Maxine, thank you so much for hosting and taking Charlotte and I through some conversation points on career change and career transition. Hope everybody has enjoyed it. Thank you for the comments that have come through. So we are back next month on the 8th of June. We've pushed it back a week because there's another bank holiday and it's half term. And this is the final piece of this series. So this is, we've gone through this whole identify what we want to do, looking at career change. So now it's about how do we position ourselves and move forward. And it's having a clear message of going to market for yourself, but also as a business. So we are back live 9:30 Thursday the 8th of June, and then following on from that, we have 2 free workshops every quarter, which follow on from the quarterly topics we're working on. So we've got one for individuals, which is how to market yourself in the best possible way. So that is online, 14th of June, 6 till 7:30. So this is about positioning yourself and marketing yourself online, maybe with LinkedIn, on paper as your CV, and in person, maybe an interview. And then for businesses, how to effectively market your business to existing and new employees. Again, online workshop, and this is, how do we attract people into our business and keep them within in our business? Charlotte, it's been lovely to see you.
I feel refreshed.
Good.
Oh, I thought you were going to say shattered. Thank goodness for that.
No,
I might be off for a coffee.
Yeah. Thank you. That was fantastic. Great to see everybody. Really hope you'll join us for the next session, and please join us on the workshop. Obviously, they are interactive, loads more to get through, loads of takeaways to implement. Max, just love having you on. Thank you. And Ruth, a pleasure as always. Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody. Have the rest of a very good day.
Yeah.